Morning SKN. Nat Turner once said, and quote, "Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity," end quote. In this segment of Expressions, we will be engaging communication specialist Jaedee Caines. Jaedee has experience in media, print broadcast, and news, that is, public relations, marketing, and so much more. But she is here to speak to us about how we all can develop our communication skills and her recently launched business dubbed Refined. Good morning, Jaedee. Welcome to Good Morning SKN.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it greatly.
Oh, a pleasure indeed.
Awesome. Jaedee, can you share with us your thoughts on the introductory quote by Nat Turner? Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. What are your thoughts on that?
That is right on point. I couldn't agree more. Communication is one thing, but good communication is essential. I think many times we speak and we think that we are communicating, or we give nonverbals and we think that we are communicating. And yes, indeed we are, but perhaps it may not be effective communication. And that is something that is very important to ensure that there's the absence of confusion.
Okay. So what is the importance of developing effective communication skills, Jaedee?
Well, when we are communicating, naturally, we are speaking or engaging at least one other person. And if the goal is to educate or inform the other person, it is important that the other person understands what it is we are saying, and vice versa. If it is to persuade, then it's even more important to ensure that the audience, whether it be one person, whether it be a group of persons, it doesn't matter the audience size. As long as there's an audience, we have to ensure that persons understand each other. I think, as I mentioned earlier, that many times we engage each other and we are thinking primarily from our standpoint, what it is I want to get across, and not necessarily how well it would be received. So for example, if we are to communicate effectively, we should factor a number of things. One of them being the purpose, whether it is to inform or educate people, and secondly, the audience. I would say those are the two most important things to be considered to ensure that there is effective communication. Naturally, there are others, but I think those are paramount.
Okay.
Certainly agree with you there. But Jaedee, can you agree with us that good communication should start with listening?
That is true. That is true. We should listen to each other, but we should also do some research. Now, it's one thing to listen. When you listen, you get to know what it is the other person is thinking, what it is the message that is coming across. So if you're in a relationship, for example, listening would be important in communication because you would need to know what the other party is thinking. However, if you're in school, you're a teacher, yes, you want to listen to what your children are saying, but you also want to ensure that what it is you are saying can go across to your students in a way that it makes sense to them. So yes, listening is important, but it varies depending on the audience that you're engaging.
Certainly.
So listening is important.
Additionally, I'm sorry, let me just add, listening would form part of the communication process, but it may come at a different stage depending on the audience. I think that is something that's important for me to share. So for example, everybody has a role to listen, but it may come at a different time depending on the purpose, depending on the audience that you're engaging. So for example, here where we are having an interview, I would have to listen when you are posing the questions, or if there's a question and answer, I would have to listen. However, when I am speaking, my goal at that present moment is simply to get the information across in a way that is effective. So listening would come at varying stages depending on the audience. So it all comes back to your audience.
The importance of not just listening to answer, but listening to understand. And I think you just spoke to that. But Jaedee, if I'm speaking to someone, should I ask them at the end of the conversation, what do you understand what I am saying to mean? Is that appropriate?
I think you can. I think that is very important. But it just may depend on how you ask that question.
Right.
Because you do not want to offend anyone.
Okay.
You don't want anyone to think, oh, she thinks that I'm not capable of understanding what she's saying. Some people are like that. For me, it's neither here nor there. But it is important to ensure that persons understand what it is being said. So there's nothing wrong with asking. Just depends on how we ask if you understand.
Okay.
So for example, if you're speaking with an adult who you suspect may get a little bit offended, if you ask the question, you may want to package it a little bit differently. To a child, you would say, so do you understand what it is I'm saying? Or can you give me in your own words what I just said? For the adult, you may want to turn it around and ask, do you have any questions based on what it is I just said? And that would give a perfect opportunity for them to say, well, I wasn't clear on this because you've opened that door.
Okay. Okay, I like that. I like
yes,
that.
I do. No wonder she's the specialist here. So, Jaedee, as a communication specialist, can you share with us a little bit about your career as a communication specialist?
Okay, sure. So recently, in a very soft way, I officially presented to the public Refined, which is the name of a new service a new company rather that I've launched. And I said softly to the public because it is actually something that I've been doing for quite some time, but I never put a name to it and I never sought to do it in a very structured way. It's just because I live on a small island, people would reach out to me and say, Jaedee, can you come and do a workshop in this area? Jaedee, I want you to offer some one-on-one sessions for a contestant who's entering a pageant. That may be how persons reach out to me, or have been the way persons reached out to me in the past. But I decided, you know what, Jaedee, it is time to put it out there officially to the public, let people know. And then the response has been so overwhelming because a lot of persons have been saying they didn't even know that this existed and, they have need for this type of service. But as it relates to me and how I became involved, I can tell you that I am officially trained in the area of communication from audio, video, oral communication.
Wow.
I mean, the written component, you name it. I've done some level of work as it relates to communication. I did my bachelor's degree in communication, as a matter of fact, at University of the Virgin Islands. But prior to that, and since that, I've been involved in varying aspects of media work and public relations for some time. And then I went on to do management focusing on marketing. So there you see another aspect of communication coming out as well. And so that is what I did my master's in. So everything that I do finds itself back to communication. I've worked in the media, and so you can see that there's a communication component. I've put a pause on it, but I've done tutoring for children in the area of language arts. And again, you can see communication. So it's just something I love. People would think I love being in front of the camera more, but actually it's the reverse. I used to love being in front of the camera. I don't mind doing it, but actually I prefer doing the writing and the editing and that sort of thing in the background now. Yeah.
So Jaedee, you touched on the launch a bit earlier, but I'm going to ask you, what day did you actually launch and the inspiration for the name of your business, Refined?
Thank you so much. I like how you say that, refine, because that's exactly what we want to do. Refine people's work. So on May 4th this year, so just a few weeks ago, I officially presented to the public. Thank you so much. I officially presented to the public Refined. I did it via social media in a very soft way by simply putting out a poster, officially letting the public know that these are the services that I offer under the umbrella of Refined. Now, I have always, as I mentioned previously, performed communication type services, or I have done this for quite some time. But in terms of refined, I thought the time was now. The time had finally come for me to just put it out there to the public and let persons know that if you are struggling in this area, or even if you aren't struggling, but you just need someone who has the time to get what you want done. As it relates to communication, then I am the person to come to. I know that this is something that many persons find challenging. For some, it's a stigma attached to communication, especially public speaking. People tend to think that, oh my goodness, I can't do it, or they have the information in their heads. They just find it difficult to get it out to the public. So I try to, as much as possible, take away all of that and just essentially refine what it is they have to do, whether on paper or to a public.
Yeah, like that. Refine just fit in there perfectly.
Of course, of course. And with reference to your business, Jaedee, Refined, can you share with the public some of the services that you offered at Refined?
Okay, thank you so much. Well, when you think of the word refined, you think of improving, making small changes. I mean, you're thinking of, it could be something like an idea, theory, a method, just making something more accurate, making it more subtle. Yes, that's what you think of when you hear the word refined. So with that in your mind, then I can segue and let you know how I get this done. I get this done by offering services in terms of coaching for public speaking and interviews. This can be done whether by individuals or with groups. So let's break it down. Let's say, for example, you have a presentation coming up and you're a little bit nervous. Perhaps you have a feature on this great program, Good Morning SKN, and you want to know, you have the information and you want to be your best self. Yeah. You come to me and I can help you with that public speaking. What if it's a group? So for example, you are a contestant in a pageant. And there are other contestants like you who want the basic skills, who want to have an idea of how they can enhance their presentations to the public. So you come together and you say, hey, Jaedee, I need to offer some public speaking or interview preparation tips for us and make it, very interactive. Well, you don't even need to tell me that. I'll make it very interactive for you. So nice. Public speaking and interview preparation, those are two of the services that I offer in terms of sessions and workshops. But then there's also speech writing, advertisement scripting and editing. There's also general editorial and document review. So let's say you have a business plan. Or let's say you have some sort of proposal where you have the idea in your head, or you even have some of it on paper, but you need someone to look over that document. You need someone to take it from point A and take it all the way up to the highest points. Then you will come to me. You want it to be refined. Indeed. As long as you want it to be refined, then you will come to me. If you want it to stay basic, that's your choice. But if you want that extra touch, that element of making it even better, you want it refined. That is what I do. I'm a little bit of a comic, so just don't mind me.
We are loving it.
But essentially, that is what I do. Because you want people to not be so tense and uptight and nervous. I've come across many persons, let's deal with pageants for a second. They are brilliant. And they have all of the information in their head. They don't need me to look for the information. Yes. Some do, but I'm speaking to those who don't even need me to look for the information because they have it in their heads. But they are just so nervous about getting it out there. And it really comes down to being prepared. Okay. Because if you are prepared in a particular area, your confidence level is risen. Your confidence level goes up. Yes. And so you are able to better get the information across. You've done your research, you've done the preparations necessary, and all that's left for you to do is to execute.
I like that. I like that.
So there's the public speaking and interview workshops. There's the speech writing and other editorial and document reviews. There is proposal writing and review, and there's advertisement scripting and editing. And those are some of the basics that I do. Of course, there's the general social media management and that sort of thing. But these are the areas that I push most.
Okay.
Of course, of course.
So Jaedee, we have listened to you and the public as well. And for those of us that may want to get in contact with you, how can we get in contact with you? And can we also, for those of us who don't live on Nevis but want to be part of your program, can we reach you via Zoom, and what other media means,
Sure.
can we reach you by?
Sure, no problem. So my number is 869-663-4423. I think the whole of Nevis has that number. If not, because I've had it for some time. I've had it since I was about 15 years old, and I'm way past 15 now. And my email address is my name at Gmail. So it's Jaedee Caines, JAEDEECAINES @gmail.com. And you'll also find this on my social media page. So I have an official social media page. So if you go there, you'll find my contact information. It's Jaedee Caines. That's the name of my page. So you go there and you'll find my contact information. And yes, to answer your question, yes, I offer services via Zoom as well. Whatever works for you, we can make it happen. If you are committed and you just truly want to get something done, we will use the technology if necessary to get it done.
Wonderfully said. And as we wrap this session, Jaedee, any final words of encouragement for persons out there that is struggling with effective communication?
Yes, thank you so much. I need our people to understand that the days of staying in your shell and not exploring all that you can explore because you've told yourself that you can't communicate effectively are over. Those days are over. You no longer have to stay in that shell or that bubble. I am offering a service or services to you that you can capitalize on to just enhance yourself. And you do not need to do it simply for a job. If it's something that you recognize will benefit you both personally and professionally, make that investment in yourself. And I can assure you the cost is very affordable. I'm not doing it for revenue generation solely. I'm doing it because I recognize that there is a void. I recognize that there is a need. And parents, bear in mind as well, if you did not get that start, make sure that your child or your children get it. So feel free to reach out to me if you want me to offer services to your children as well. 663-4423 is my number, and my email is jadeecaines@gmail.com. And I want to thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity because it is something that can only redound to our benefit. A lot of us have political aspirations and we get into office because we are likable. People like us and people know that we can do great things. But then we recognize that there is a problem when we have to speak. So don't be afraid and don't be ashamed to reach out as well because we can help each other.
I like that. So if you want to be refined, keep Jaedee Caines on your mind.
That's it. I love that.
Wow, I like that. I like that.
Jaedee, you can run with it. You can run with it.
Of course.